So earlier today, I saw the breaking news that Daniel Snyder had finally done it. He had actually sold the Washington Commanders. Now, of course, the NFL has to approve this. But like when I heard this news, I couldn't help but think of Dandy Don Meredith, who would have said in this particular case, turn out the lights, the party's over. And if you are one of the few Washington Commanders fans left outside of the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, I will certainly give you a lot of credit for sticking out what was, but to be honest, one of the worst 24 years of ownership I think I've ever witnessed in the National Football League. I started to think about I was going to do a show and we were going to cover all of the transgressions that Dan Snyder and his staff actually did as they owned the Washington Commanders. And then I realized I had no desire to create a 3-hour James Cameron Avatar style video tonight. So I just decided to try to get this knocked out in hopefully under 5 minutes without really touching on all of the transgressions, because you know what they are. That being said, when I think about the Washington Commanders over the last 24 years, I really, for me, it's sort of like thinking about being forced to watch General Hospital every day, 5 days a week, for 24 years straight. What happened with Luke and Laura? What did Sonny do now? Just watching the good folks of Port Charles actually do battle with each other would have been absolutely painful to suffer through for me personally. Now, if you're a fan of soap operas, I apologize. That being said, this Washington Commanders football team is actually in decent shape on the field. They have Sam Howell. They've got an excellent coach in Ron Rivera. If he just understood where his team actually stood related to actually still having a shot at making the playoffs. Look, I know that could happen to any of us in that position would make that mistake. I mean, this is because there's no newspapers delivered to Ron Rivera anymore. And I seriously doubt that Mr. Rivera, as good as a guy as he is spending a lot of time on TikTok and on Twitter, if you know what I mean. So when you think about this historic day here in Washington, of course, Daniel Snyder's walking away with a pile of cash. He came in with 800. He's leaving with $6 billion. As bad as he was as an owner, he certainly proved to be a good investor. And you have to give him, I guess, a little bit of credit for that. But that's what happens when you own one of the most historic franchises in all of sports in the world. But like when you think about this Washington Commanders team and you think about this particular franchise, I would cite what I watched today. I had a chance to catch up on some of the local television coverage of the Washington Commanders sale. And so I watched a couple different pieces, and they went out and they talked to a bunch of people. And of course, everybody was rejoicing. They were doing their Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure moment. Be kind to each other, be excellent to each other. There suddenly was a new leaf because you could hear some music playing in the sky because Daniel Snyder's out as the owner of the Washington Commanders. But when they were out on the street, I noticed something very disturbing, and it's something that you wouldn't see in most major cities across the United States. You can go into San Francisco, you can go into Oakland, you can go into Las Vegas, you can go into Minnesota, you can go into Chicago, and you would find fans all over those towns, Philadelphia, with their team's colors on, a hat, a jacket, socks, sunglasses, just, it's everywhere. And that's how it used to be in Washington, D.C., pre-Daniel Snyder. And today, I didn't see a single person interviewed who had any Commanders gear on. And if that right there is not a statement of how he has ran this organization into the ground, then I don't know what is. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in to House of Takes. As always, I am Dave DeBaugh. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel yet, please go ahead and subscribe. And of course, like this video. All right. Enough of the groveling. For the House of Takes, I am Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.